Welcome back. Today we have another video, and this is about apologetics. Now, I'm not going to talk about necessarily Christianity today, at least not as the focus of the video. I'm going to take it a big step back. I'm going to say, how do we know that there must be a God? Why is there even theorized to be a God? After all, that's a pretty big conclusion. Didn't science tell us that this all came from a Big Bang? That everything we see just evolved here? I'm going to take you through a couple of very formal philosophical arguments. It's going to be the Kalam Cosmological argument. Then we're going to go through the teleological argument and the moral argument. Those are the three main ones. We'll talk some other things after that, but let's start there. All right. Kalam Cosmological argument basically states that everything that exists had a beginning. The universe exists. Therefore, the universe had a beginning. Great. So the universe has not always existed. Fantastic. Everyone who's reasonable agrees with that. Hubble, the scientist, in 1929 discovered this with his telescope and confirmed that yes, there is a time equals zero, a period where we cannot go back any further because we have found the beginning. That's important. It means there has to be a beginning, which also means that we need to know how the things began to exist that were at the beginning. See, if you believe there's nothing responsible for us being here, and talk about that as like the Big Bang Theory, then I'm going to ask what happened to make a Big Bang? And the common response is, well, there were already chemicals. Pause. There are already things here, which if there's something here, that means there is not nothing here. It's an illogical argument based on just strict logic. If there is nothing here, then there is nothing here. There are no hydrogen atoms. There's no really dense ball of positrons and negatrons, and they outweigh each other, and there's this God particle. Really, guys? You had to invent a God particle to theoretically initiate this reaction that exploded into the universe? Come on. Be better. You're trying too hard to hide that there's a God. But maybe that didn't help a lot. Maybe you still have other questions. I mean, I look at this crazy thing I'm speaking into now, a microphone, and I'm looking into a computer and say, wow, that's a really advanced design. Whether it's advanced in that I could not easily make one, or it's advanced that it's complex. And now here's where the teleological argument comes in. It says that everything with a complex design must have a designer. The universe has a complex design, therefore the universe must have a designer. This is something that Bill Gates, yes, the Microsoft Bill Gates, has mentioned. He said that when he was looking through code and realized how complex the first computer is, he realized there must be a God. Because how do we have everything that we have now without there being some order, some great designer? That's important. See, the laws that we abide by as scientists, as physicists, as chemists, they only exist because things behave in a natural, predictable, repeatable fashion. Even when we say something like spontaneous combustion, it's not really spontaneous. We know that we put materials in a situation where they could combust. And we know if we change the environmental factors enough, and the proximity of the materials getting closer and closer together and heat the area up, eventually they will combust. This is a very common thing for scientists. You can predict the rate of a reaction, but you don't necessarily know exactly when it will happen, because you first have to have the activation energy of a reaction. Now, I know I'm getting scientific here, but there's a point to this, and let me take it out of the science world real quick. If you walked up to a cave and you saw a very detailed picture, I mean, it's got animals and people, you can see food in a portion of it, there's light, there's stars, maybe there's even words, or what look to be words. Are you going to be someone to say that, hey, that's really cool, but that all happened by chance? Or are you going to look at that and say, a cave person drew it? Or someone was here before us. Maybe it wasn't a cave person. I don't know. But it's something with intelligent life that thought that was an appropriate use of resources. Something that sets humanity apart from every other species on Earth is we take time to do those small things. Every other species is caught in this cycle of eat, kill, mate. Eat, kill, mate. Eat, kill, mate. Humanity has said, I can go to my refrigerator or the local store and get food. I can mate with whomever I want. It's not a Christian worldview. That's not my worldview, but it's what we theoretically could do. We now have extra time. We have time to be bored. That's a big difference that no other species has. And in that boredom, we invent things. We use the minds that God has given us to be creative. The last argument I mentioned earlier, we'll talk about that now, it's the moral argument. And this says that every law has a lawgiver. There is a moral law, and therefore there must be a moral lawgiver. Maybe you don't think there's a moral law. And let me ask you something about that then. Do you believe that murder's wrong, that rape's wrong, kidnapping is wrong? Do you believe that human life, whether a young child or an elderly aging person, or someone in the prime of their life, has value? Most people will say yes to that. Most people will say it's a tragedy when someone dies. Even if they have lived a great, long, fulfilling life and they're in their 80s, 90s, 100s, it's still sad when someone passes. We still, if you're close to that person, get emotionally distraught because you're without that person. And that makes sense because at least the God of the Bible, so the Jewish God, even the God of that Islam was initially based on, Yahweh, before they went to Allah, which Allah and Yahweh are not the same person. Allah and Jesus are not the same person. Jesus is Yahweh. But that God of the Old Testament of Genesis 1, did not design us to die. He designed us to live forever. And when we live forever, that means that whenever anything dies, it was not part of the plan. And you're sad, naturally, when the plan doesn't work. See, that's why we know that there must be at least a moral law. We know certain things are objectively true, that you shouldn't do them. And if we all know these things, because they're all written in our hearts, whether you're in America, or Asia, or Africa, South America, Europe, Australia, you know it's wrong when someone is mistreated. And we all know that. How? Because there's someone, a God, who created us and believes that we all need to know certain information. The last piece of evidence, this would be kind of a combination of things, but really just a better explanation of the teleological argument, is to look at DNA. Now, I happen to have a Bible right next to me, in my hand. And in this Bible, there is a lot of information. My Bible happens to have over 1,000 pages in it. And one thing about a Bible with this many pages is it's a lot to read. What if I told you that in every cell of your body there's this thing called DNA? Deoxyribonucleic acid. It stores all the information needed to make you you. It tells your cells how to divide. It determines whether you have hair or, like me, you're thin and not up top. DNA is the building block of life. DNA is wildly filled with knowledge. DNA is so just packed with knowledge, it would take over 2,000 Bibles to store the information found in one cell of DNA. Which would be cool if it was just one cell of DNA in our body, but there's not. There's trillions of cells of DNA, which means you would need quadrillions of Bibles to hold all of the information found in DNA in our body. We have to realize that we were created by a God. And I believe it is the Christian God, based on the evidence of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ that we talked about in a previous video about is there evidence for Christianity. And in future videos, we're going to talk about things like, well, didn't science explain everything? I mean, why does there actually have to be a God? Or how do I know that there's truth? Isn't it your truth and my truth? Well, no, in short, but I'm going to give you guys a better explanation than just a one-word answer. You deserve that. You deserve to challenge yourselves to learn more and to really question why you believe until it makes sense and it is a logical belief system in which you are comfortable to run your entire life around. When you get there, you'll be thankful you did. Have a great day. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.